afternoon, everyone. We are going to begin our next workshop, The Next Generation Riding the Automotive Wave. I would like to welcome our moderator for this session, Mr. Rishabh Sanghi, the chairman FADA Generation X, and the director JS Four Wheel Motors. I would like to welcome him and start this session. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can I request people outside the hall to please take their seats? Good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen, and more aptly, boys and girls, keeping the session in mind. I take this opportunity to invite all of you to the first workshop for FADA Auto Summit. And I also take this opportunity to invite our panelists for this very interesting session on the next generation riding the Indian automotive wave. I would request all the panel members to take the stage as I introduce them. Abhishek Goyal. Abhishek is the executive director at Himgiri Automobiles. Himgiri Group represents Tata Motors, Hyundai, Hero MotoCorp, and Ashok Leyland in the Delhi NCR region. Abhishek is also the co-founder at National Alley Life Sciences, and he's a graduate from New York University. Welcome, Abhishek. Dr. Elisha Thanawala. She's a partner and dealer principal at Strong Winds Honda. She's a second generation entrepreneur and is presently the dealer principal at Strong Winds, an HMSI dealership in Pune. She's completed her post-graduation in dentistry with a specialization in pediatrics from the Maharashtra University. Welcome, Alicia. Gandhali Niwal. She's head of operations at Parvati Automobiles and director at Ather Yavatmal. Gandhali has done her graduation in event management from Germany. Welcome, Gandhali. Uday Raj Chaudia, he's head of operations at Khivraj Elixir Private Limited. Uday is the fourth generation into the business. It's a 63-year-old family business that he is a part of. Welcome, Uday. Yatidharan Chaudhary, he's the chief executive officer at Nagore Automobiles Private Limited. Nagore Automobiles represent Mahindra and Mahindra in the state, at Nagore in the state of Rajasthan. Welcome, Yatidharan. It's a pleasure to welcome you to today's panel discussion on the next generation riding the Indian automotive wave. We are gathered here at a very exciting time with the automotive industry in India undergoing rapid transformation, fueled by technological innovations, shifting consumer preferences, and a growing focus on sustainability. As we look towards the future of mobility, the role of next generation automobile dealers is more critical than ever. They're not just entrepreneurs, but are shaping how consumers experience and engage with the brands. The future of automotive retail is evolving with digitization, electric vehicles, connected technology, and an ever-increasing need for personalized customer experiences. Today, we have a distinguished panel of young, dynamic leaders from the automotive dealership industry who are already making waves in this exciting transformation. They represent the new face of the industry, innovative, tech-savvy, and deeply attuned to the demands of aspirations of the Indian consumer. From embracing digital sales model to leading the charge in electric vehicle adoption, these leaders are setting the stage for a more sustainable, customer-centric future. We will deep dive into the challenges and opportunities the next generation of dealer faces, how they're adapting to the changing market dynamics, and what the future holds for the Indian automotive sector. We are eager to hear their experiences and insights, and we hope this conversation will spark new ideas and inspire all of us to think about how we can all contribute to driving the industry forward. Thank you once again for joining us, and I look forward to a stimulating discussion from here. We have some very interesting stories up here on the dais on how the next generation dealers got into one of the most glamorous and sought after businesses in India today. But as a dealer myself, let me assure you that the grass is much greener than it looks from the other side. But let us hear from the panelists about their journey into the automotive world. So I'll start with the youngest of the lot, Yathidaran. So Yathidaran, you come from a family that is involved in active politics besides being automobile dealers. So what made you choose the automotive business over politics?
So I will not say that that I have chosen business over politics because it will go side by side. So when I joined family business, I was not in Nagaur from last about 6 to 7 years. So I was not connected with the people. And what I found that business is the best opportunity to get connected to the people there. And I think my dealership, like dad and grandfather, and I was like personally delivering a vehicles to every customer, every single customer every day. And he's like, my grandfather is like something 80 years old, 81 years old, and still he comes to the dealership and delivers every vehicle, meet everybody, and I'll be there. So this is what makes me like,
So one would think that it's the other way around, that it's the politics that helps you sell more vehicles or service vehicles better.
customer
but,
retention, technique.
but you are saying that it's selling cars and being an automobile dealer that helps you connect with
Yeah,
the people of
exactly.
your city better.
Yes.
Gandhali, the first time we met, you weren't even sure about the automotive business. You were actively wanting to pursue a career in event management.
Yeah.
So from managing events to managing automobile dealership, what facilitated the transition?
So when we meet, that time I was really interested in the event management, but as my past, I have seen we have started our dealership in 1994, and my dad was the only there, and my mom just started like after their marriage. On the second day, they have started the working together, and they have really did hard work, and I have seen them really sacrifices. I really didn't want them to let it go. And I'm not the only child, but my sister is not that much interested, but they only see me, and I don't want that let it go that way. So when I came to Gen X, I didn't know how to, like, I have in my heart that I want to do the dealership work, but I don't know how to start it. I don't know how to get it into the business because everything is set up. Or when you go, you don't know where to start because everyone is doing their work, manager is doing their work, but I don't know if I'm asking them any queries or something. I think I'm disturbing them. So Gen X is helping me that if how to work and with the Excels and everything. So yeah.
Uday, you are the fourth generation into the business. I'm sure automobiles run in your blood. Was choosing the business your only choice, or were you encouraged to explore other opportunities outside the business as well?
So actively, I don't think anybody in my family ever said it's the only choice, but I'm so sure that they brought me up in a way where I thought it was my decision. So I'm confident of this. I don't think anybody will accept it. So I always grew up knowing that I want to work with my father, with my grandfather. There was a small decision I had to make after college, whether I want to work 2-3 years in a corporate first or work with my family business. I worked for 3-4 months in Goldman Sachs. I realized very early that I don't think the corporate journey, unless you invest enough time in it, really gives you an idea of all the facets of business. I think the early days is a lot of brunt work. So I decided not to do that, got into my family business straight after my undergrad. And I had big plans back then to do a master's, but this business really sucks you in. And I think as opportunities presented themselves, now I'm about 4.5 years into business, and I think it was a great decision.
From the applause, I'm sure a lot of people relate with your stories of thinking that it was your choice, but while it was actually not. Elisha, you have probably one of the most interesting stories among all the panelists. So just take us through the sequence of events that led you to make a complete 360-degree turn from being an illustrious doctor or the profession of being a doctor to the exciting world of automobiles. Please take us through that.
Thanks, Rishabh. Good afternoon, respected dignitaries and delegates. So this is one of the most common conversation starters that I come across nowadays. How did you leave medicine and why did you join the family business? And usually when this question is asked of me, I am met with looks which are bordering on surprise and shock. Like, what really made you get into this? Why, what, how? Well, for starters, I think sometimes in life, destiny chooses and makes certain decisions for you. And this was one such case for me. To give you all a backstory of how this 360-degree flip happened. We started with a dealership right after COVID, after the COVID lockdown. And at that point of time, there was a lot of infrastructure work that had to be done, and the whole dealership had to be set up with the departments and the processes and the manpower onboarding. Practicing dentistry at that point of time was quite a risky proposition, and therefore I had time on hand, and I was like, why don't I pitch in and help with the setting up of the organization? So I started with that, thinking that this is going to be something that I do for some time, for a couple of months till the organization is set up, and then I can go on and do what go on and just pursue my profession then. We inaugurated the dealership in October, November, which is like the festive season where you have the Dussehra and Diwali, and there was like this frenzy that was going on, and there was just so much happening. I got pulled into it, and for the next couple of months, I found myself in the business. I think the turning point came right after that, when that frenzy died down, and then I had to make a decision as to whether I wanted to go back to pursuing medicine, or did I then want to stay back in the business. Now, very honestly speaking, I don't think there was a time when I actually sat myself down and I thought, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? What are the pros and cons of pursuing medicine? What are the pros and cons of being in the automobile business? I think for me, it was a very, very organic transition. And I think it was an organic transition primarily because I saw that there were endless possibilities that were associated with the business. Like in the automobile industry, like the whole dealership setup is like this huge umbrella under which you have various departments. And there's something that is going to appeal to everybody. Like, there's someone who might find a liking for working with the HR. There's someone who's going to like accounting and finances. Maybe sales and marketing, is something that appeals to someone. So there's just so many things to do and so much to choose from. So yeah, I think the endless opportunities that I saw here, the limitless learnings, and that is something that happens even every day today. Like there are days when I find myself, trying to work out what is the code, why am I not, able to break the meta algorithm for the social media management. There are days when I find myself actually going through the whole OBD2B transition, looking at the vehicles that are coming in, what are the features, what is the price point, is my customer going to like this? And then there are days when I'm going to find myself smack in the middle of the warehouse. Like there's just so much happening, there's so much learning that takes place on the job. And I really don't think there are many other professions that afford you this kind of growth. So there is an organizational growth that is taking place, but more importantly, there is an individual growth that is taking place. And I don't think I am the same person I am today that I was like a couple of years ago. So I think a place or an organization that actually lets you grow, that gives you so many opportunities, is the place that I would want to find myself in. And hence, I guess, business it is.
You don't sound like a person who've been in this business only for a couple of years. It looks like you've been born into this business. Abhishek, from talking about being born into the business, what's your story? Were you always fascinated by cars and bikes as a kid? What got you into the business?
So honestly, I think like a duck takes to water. Business and entrepreneurship was always in the blood. But ultimately, I think one of the differences between us and the previous generations has been that we're not necessarily in the business for the money of it, right? We're privileged, considering that I'm second generation. And it's not necessarily the monetary aspect of the business that attracts you. It's the legacy building ultimately. Building something that outlasts you. That's something that really excites me. Building upon the family legacy. And of course, nation building, ultimately, I think automotive contributes to about 7% of the overall GDP and somewhere about 20 million jobs, directly or indirectly. So, for us, whether we're millennials, Gen Z, whatever, I think making a difference to society, making a difference to the country, and ultimately, carry forwarding the legacy is something that really motivates me personally.
And this question now is for all of you. Being the next generation entrepreneur, there are its own unique sets of challenges that come being somebody who's new to the business, or you try and enter into somebody else's comfort zone. FADA Gen X vertical was established a couple of years back with the primary objective, or one of the major objectives, of being able to overcome these challenges. So how has being a part of Gen X helped you overcome some of those challenges, and what have been your key takeaways from various Gen X events that you've been a part of over the last 2 years? So this question is to the entire panel. Any one of you can take this question. Uday.
So, according to me, it's not been very long that I've been associated with Gen X, maybe about 1.5, 2 years now. And I think the biggest benefit that I've seen, or the way Gen X has helped me, is a lot of times when you're just in your ecosystem of your dealership, I think, like Gandhari mentioned, it can get very overwhelming. Whether you're doing the right thing, the wrong thing, is this how you should approach it? And while my father does try to help, he's also pretty preoccupied. So I think Gen X was an outlet where I could reassure myself that, okay, hum doob rahe to saath mein doob rahe, or like we are all making the similar mistakes, or we're doing the right thing together. So that has been a very big contribution of Gen X in my journey, apart from making the journey a little bit more fun and exciting. There's something to look forward to. I think that's how Gen X has made a difference.
Great.
Yatidharan.
I have been in the business of approx 1.5 years, and in Gen X it's about a year. So Gen X is I would not say it is a group. I would say it's a family of young entrepreneurs who are who are learning from their mistakes. Actually, we are not here to attend a course, or we are here to meet together and we say कि यार ये तूने सही किया क्या, ऐसे करना चाहिए, उसको ऐसे करना चाहिए. We are just learning from each other's mistakes. That's what I say. This is what Gen X is. And about Gen X initiative of the courses like NMIMS and IIT Delhi, I must say they are fabulous. For the person like me who is very new to the business and not from the business field, it's a very good opportunity. So I must say it's good.
I think, Rishabhai, what you said, oftentimes we think our challenges or problems are unique to us. I think Gen X has made me realize they're not. Sitting in Delhi, I used to think a dealer from maybe Nagpur or Kanpur or anywhere around the country may not be facing the same challenges as I am. But oftentimes you realize that you are facing the challenges that the other person is facing as well. And peer-to-peer learning, like he mentioned, is very, very important in overcoming those challenges. I think I remember the Annamale Toyota trip that we took. Honestly, we've been in the industry for 40 years. So ultimately, I thought, I heard stories like, Toyota Middle East comes here to take training sessions and everything. And I was like, yaar, 40 साल हो गए, ऐसा क्या इधर हो रहा होगा? मतलब dealership में क्या होता है? Sales, service, allied business, it's the same thing everywhere. But once we actually went there, saw the systems and processes, there was so much to learn. The level of loyalty that the staff had over there was next level. I think team building, cross promotions that they were doing in terms of structures that they were processing, the SOPs in general, they were amazing, absolutely outstanding. Oftentimes we think that we're at the dealership front, so we're not necessarily at the OEM front, so we can't implement those processes. Not true. Their workshops were running like factories, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And of course, we had the Isha temple visit as well with Sadhguru. It was absolutely amazing. So, experiences like those, and, connecting ultimately, like he said, dil halka ho jata hai. Discuss karke the challenges that you're facing. So, Gen X is absolutely very, very important, and it's been a great learning process for me personally, at least.
I will mostly say that we get influenced by the friends, and we have college friends and school friends who are doing their jobs and enjoying their life with their whatever they are doing interesting, and we are sitting and doing something in dealership. But when you meet the Gen X, you are getting influenced by the right friend. I can tell you because you can connect them with the same professional goals, and some might have a doing really well, and you really you get the inspiration from your friends, like your same age group, and that's really nice. I mean, you never get such friends from any other association, I think.
So for me, FADA Gen X, the first opportunity that I had to attend one of the programs that were, formulated by FADA Gen X was the course which they had in collaboration with NMIMS in Mumbai, the Narsi Munji Institute of Management Studies in Mumbai. And I think that was a lovely, eye-opening experience for me, considering the fact that I do not have a formal backing or formal knowledge of what this industry looks like and how it actually functions and works. So basically, it was like a really, really great course where we had internal faculty talk to us and give us understanding on management studies and all of that. We also had guest speakers who were industry veterans, and I think that was a changing point for me. That was an eye-opener for me. Because everybody, all of these industry veterans have a different way of handling their businesses. Even though they're all handling dealerships, the way they actually do business is different. Their thought processes are completely different. Their days and their schedules look different. The teams that they work with are different. And that is something that really appealed to me, to understand that there is not just this one path to success. You don't necessarily have to do everything one certain way, that you can do your own thing. It's more of a situation of you do you. You decide how you want to do this. You lead your business to achieve that kind of success. So that was something that was really great. I think with NMIMS, we also had a field visit. We had gone to a dealership in Mumbai. And like Uday and Abhishek have just mentioned, we are always so preoccupied and overwhelmed with what is happening at our dealership, the day-to-day workings of our dealership, that we do not really have this opportunity to go to some other dealership and see how are the workings, what are the intrinsic workings of that dealership. So to actually get an opportunity to get an inside-out view of some other dealership, where you have the staff and the managers take you through the workings of their dealership, I think is amazing. Is not an opportunity that you would get otherwise. And like they mentioned, sometimes, you're so bogged down by your own problems and you think that ये तो मेरे साथ ही होता है, मेरा staff ही ऐसा है, ये ही नहीं जमता है. You always have, everybody has these issues with their businesses. When you actually go to these dealerships, you realize that those are not only your problems, they are universal problems. Like all the dealerships face those issues on a daily basis. But the way they actually, address those problems, the way they look at the solutions for those problems are different. And that, it's an enriching experience. That is a great learning. And I think the last thing about FADA Gen X, and especially the NMIMS course that I did, and the most important thing are the people that were associated with it, the friends that I made over there. And I think that a community of like-minded people with shared experience is very difficult to come by. Because unlike other professions, you do not have a college training when you get into an automobile dealership. You come from various different backgrounds. So you do not have that comfort zone of reaching out to your friends who were from college or your professors who were from college. So this is more of a lived experience that takes place. And I think the community that we formed in NMIMS are basically like my safe space. I can always reach out to them over a phone call and ask them anything that I want to, even the smallest of things, and know that I'm not going to be judged. So I think I would really, really applaud FADA Gen X with their collaboration with NMIMS. And I think FADA Gen X is doing a great job. Even if it is something as simple as keeping a get-together that we had last evening, it really helps bringing in communities and people together to form that one foundation, to form that one group that you can then look out to whenever you have to face challenges and issues in your day-to-day working.
I wanted to get views of the Gen X about today's theme of Auto Summit, which is efficiency, safety, and sustainability. So starting with Gandhali. Auto industry is often looked as a major contributor to environmental challenges, pollution, global warming. while the OEMs are doing their bit in terms of bringing in cleaner emission technologies and reducing their own carbon footprint, what as auto dealers can we do to contribute towards a sustainable future?
Okay, so OEM plays in a really big ground, so they have like a very big carbon footprint. So they have some agencies who identify and map and reduce the carbon footprint. But if you see that, like in a customer perspective, they mostly care about their cost efficiency other than the carbon footprint. But as a dealer, what we can do that nowadays solar panels and recycling things are really common. But what we did in our dealership, that we have like specific area where we do the gardening, like for the nursing, and we grow some plants, like a small plant. We use the water from the wash we do, like the bike wash. We recycle that water and then we use it for like plants. And that we every delivery of the bike, we give one plant to the customers. So that's initiative we do as a green dealership.
I think that's really interesting. We as auto dealers, most of the times we want to look out towards the OEM to help us take initiatives. We are attuned to getting SOPs and processes from them, but I'm happy that as dealers, we've been able to identify small initiatives where we can contribute to a sustainable future. Uday, ours is a very highly people-intensive industry. Each transaction with the customer is unique in its own way. How do we ensure that we develop efficient processes and systems to keep on delivering superlative customer experiences and getting superlative outcomes?
So I think what we've tried to do, we're still not where we'd like to be, but there's definitely an effort from our dealership. What we've tried to do is, as and when we identify processes that have a lot of friction points with customers, we try to review whether the process that we've currently established is actually with the customer in the center. What I mean by that is, many times in our dealerships, and not that they're bad processes, they're working very well for us, but many times the center of that process becomes your accounts department, or whether spare parts is safe or not in this particular process, and whether pilferage can happen or not. That becomes the central point from where that process is built, which many times inevitably causes a lot of friction to customers. So I think reviewing processes with customer at the center wherever possible, it's very difficult, but wherever possible we try to do it. The second step to actually make this work, one is defining the process, two is ensuring adherence. When you're one, still okay, but if you become multi-city or too many locations in one city, then the problem pops. Of how are you going to make sure the same process is adhered to so that the customer actually gets the same consistent experience. And it's nothing alien to the business world. I think D2C brands have done this very well in the last 2 decades. Any online store that you interact with, the experience is extremely seamless, and they've been able to do it only through digitalization. And I think that's the inevitable next step. We have to figure out how to use it in a very simple way. OEMs are making a leapfrog move in terms of digitalizing interactions with customers. We can also do some small stuff. I think one more thing that we can do is actually have conversations with our customers more often as the process goes forward. To give you all an example, OEMs digitalize everything till pre-sales. From when the money is taken till when the delivery happens, there are tens of things that dealerships need to do for customers. And as the number of counters increased for us, we realized that this process was not consistent, whether it's issuing insurance, whether it's issuing RSA or anything. So what we did is laid down the process, put it onto a small tool, ran that tool across all locations, and now we're able to guarantee to customers that you'll have a delivery with your HSRP in 2 days. And I'm able to pin out across 40 locations in which location there is a mismatch of TAT or no mismatch of TAT. So big efficiency because time is saved and customer experience is good.
Great. We are running slightly behind schedule, so next couple of quick questions. Elisha, your profession or your career is not the only thing that takes a 360-degree turn. This question also takes a 360-degree turn, that in an industry that is driven by standardization, processes and SOPs, where do you see a scope of innovation for your dealership? And how can you make differentiating customer experiences with each transaction that you do?
That's a very interesting question, Rishabh. Well, the SOPs that are set by the OEMs are done on a pan-India level. You are supposed to be following them, but also there are certain tweaks that you can make to it. Because every area that a dealership functions in is completely different. Every city is different, every state is different, by which I mean that each of them have their own demographies. People celebrate festivals differently there. People have different aspirations where they come from. Their likes and dislikes, their local languages are completely different. And therefore, yes, you should be following the SOPs, but you should be customizing those SOPs to fit where you actually do come from. Because at the end of the day, it is all about the customer experience, right? And I mean, how do we do it? Well, I can just give you a few examples, like for social media or digital media management. I think that is something that most of us do. But most of us look at it as a very streamlined process, or we do it in a very set uniform pattern where we are just posting about the different products that the OEM has, or the different offers that the dealership has to offer, the services that we offer. We do not really look at engaging the community. We do not look at doing it in a slightly different manner. What we could actually be doing is maybe we could be roping in and collaborating with local influencers who speak the local language, who already have the connect that we need with our audience. They could be making reels for us. We could also actually be looking at making this a more fun experience, because at the end of the day, nobody is going to get onto social media to get knowledge about products or bikes or your services. You need to make it more engaging and entertaining for them. So maybe we could do reels with our staff showing what happens at the back end, or run contests which have nothing to do with the products or the services that we offer. So basically make it a more holistic experience so that there's a lot of engagement that we get from the community. So that is something that we could look at. And
Thank you. Sorry for the paucity of time. We need to really run through the next set of questions. Yati Dharan. EVs seem to be the next big thing. They're going to be disrupting the auto industry. We are expecting close to 20 new EVs getting launched in this calendar year itself. How do you think as dealers, as a part of the value chain, prepare ourselves for this disruption?
I think this is the golden opportunity to invest in EV, because I have took a small initiative back when the first Mahindra's 400 was launched. I was from a tier 3 dealer, so their automatic cars or petrol cars are also not so much popular. So selling EV in that sector is like a big challenge. So I think what we have done, or that we have our demo vehicles, we build more demo vehicles, and we start giving a training session to our loyalty customers, who are our potential customers, and showing them about how EV is sustainable, safer in coming years, in coming couple of years. I know there is an issue for the battery and technology, but I believe in coming time this will be a boom, because technology is changing like anything.
I think we are looking at interesting times ahead.
Yes.
The business model for an automobile dealership is also going to take a U-turn, and the onus is on all of us, the next generation dealers.
Dealers should invest in EVs, and especially in charging infrastructure, because we have done this. In fact, we have installed our 60 kilowatts, 170 kilowatts even in our branches also, because this is the future, I think.
Finally, last question to Abhishek, and probably one of the most interesting questions on the panel today. So, we are a highly competitive industry. All of us sitting on this dais are competitors in a way. We eye for the same pie, which more often than not leads to cutthroat competition among ourselves. As a next generation entrepreneur, how do you view this challenge? And more importantly, what do you think as dealers we should do to overcome this?
So I think that's a very pertinent question, especially today. I think we all enjoyed the post-COVID years, when there was more demand, less supply. And it was amazing. Customers were coming in, no discounts, no nothing. Full allied business, everything. Now, though, it's changing. Supply has matched up, if not exceeded demand. So in a market like this, I think first and foremost, it's important to realize that it's not a zero-sum game. I don't think mutually assured destruction is good for anyone. I think during the Cold War era, there was the US and Soviet Union, and they had all of these resources, two major global powers, nuclear weapons. They could have destroyed each other, but realized that that's not to the benefit of anyone. So I think, same way, sure, mutually assured destruction is not beneficial for anyone. Whether it's the dealer who's invested crores of rupees into the business, right? Ultimately, we're all investors, we're all businessmen, and we expect an ROI. Engaging in something like this is never beneficial. And then, whether it's the OEM, because, it takes a very long time for an OEM to build up the brand reputation in the respective area. If a dealer were to wind up, OEM suffers a lot. And ultimately, I think peer-to-peer learning, right? So like Gen X is part of that as well. I don't think of any of my co-members from Gen X as competition as such. I mean, it's peer-to-peer learning, right? We can all implement, especially second generation, third generation, we can all implement global best practices and, increase the overall pie. I think that should be the agenda, that should be the goal. And one very important thing to realize that we oftentimes forget is, nahi, koi baat nahi, agla saal better hoga. No, I mean, OEMs compete amongst each others, so do dealers. So it's here to stay. But how do we look at it from a healthy perspective in terms of overall increasing the pie and the deeper penetration of cars or vehicles in general in the population is definitely pertinent.
Great. So that was all from the panel discussion today. We were wanting to take some questions from the audience, but because of some time constraints, we can't do that. But all of us are available after this session. If you want to know more about FADA Gen X, I'm there. Sachin, Yash, Prasoon, and any of the Gen X members. Can we see a show of hands, please? Gen X members. So all of us are going to be around to answer to any of your questions. Looking forward to that. And thank you so much for being a patient audience. I'm extremely sorry to the Crystal team here for eating into your time. And thank you so much. Over to you, Sagar. Sorry, Yash.
Hello, check. We'd now like to invite FADA State Chairperson Andaman and Nicobar, Mr. Sagar Khurana, to come and felicitate the panelists. Please come, sir. Rishabh Sanghi. Abhishek Goyal. Elisha Thanawala. Gandhali Nimal. Yatidharan Chaudhary. And Uday Chaudia. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.